Welcome to Mondays with Coach Rice. It's a brand new week, the sun's shining bright. A chance to cast your net, step into the light. Life's full of challenges, it's a winding stream. But with Coach Rice, you'll find your dream.
Welcome to Casting a Net Mondays with Coach Rice, where we reel in holistic health for your mental health and well-being. I am super excited to dialogue about this very important conversation that I have been so looking for someone to talk to about, and that is menopause. With me today, I have a special guest, Deon Hall-Garriques. And I am super excited to talk about one of my favorite subjects of all is menopause, because I am going through it. I have my own summers on a regular basis. So Deon, can you tell us where you're from and how did you choose this particular career path? Because just so you guys know, she is a menopause coach.
Yeah, thank you so much, Martha, for having me. It's such a pleasure. This is one of my favorite subjects too, and because I've been there, I've seen it, so many women that I've worked with. So I am in New York City right now. I live in Long Island, New York. I'm originally an island girl, so I am from Jamaica. That's where I'm from, but been in this country for well over 35 years and really made a life here, family and all of that, education. But my journey with health and wellness, I've always I've always gravitated towards health. So I didn't understand it. Like I've always been the one who worked out. I've always been the one who a little particular about what I ate. Didn't know why. It was kind of an innate thing. But I knew earlier on I couldn't make a living off that 30 years ago. And so my aunt, one of my dearest favorite aunt that kind of raised me, she said the best way to make a living is do accounting. And so I never thought about anything else but went to college and did accounting, became a CPA, moved through the ranks of corporate, all the trappings. I'm actually still in corporate, still work a corporate job. But about 7 years ago, I something happened, right? It involved Oprah Winfrey watching her show, and something just happened. It was like that aha moment that they call it, where it's like, are you living the life you want, or are you just existing? you know
Mm.
and so it was something for me to think about. Long story short, I made a change. During that time, went back to nutrition school, because now it was a thing, right? Like, I'm like, I can actually make a career out of something that is meaningful to me and that I feel passionate about. And so I went and I did a certification in nutrition and holistic health, and became a wellness coach, and was just coaching women, because I had found myself being like that informal coach to women anyway, without being a coach, because I didn't know there was such a thing. People always came to me for advice on food and exercise and all of that stuff. So I did that for a few years. And then when I hit my 30s, the thing called perimenopause hit, but I didn't even know what it was, right? I had no idea. And so when I started to go through the mood swings, the bloating, the energy, and I'm like, what is happening? I went to see my doctor. They did some blood work. They said, we think your hormones are changing and you're in perimenopause, but nothing else. I honestly didn't know what that meant. I had no idea what it meant. And of course, my doctor wasn't equipped to give me additional information. And so I went about my business. And then in my 40s, I developed fibrocystic breast tissues. And that's when all hell broke loose. That's when
Mm.
everything changed for me, because then it became serious. I became high risk for breast cancer. I had to get a breast specialist. I had a whole medical team, a breast specialist. I was doing mammograms and sonograms 2 times a year. This went on for 10 years. I'm like, this can't be normal. This cannot be normal. All that radiation twice a year, this just can't be normal.
Wow.
And I would ask my doctors, like, why? What's the reason? And they're like, well, women of your age, that happens a lot. But why? Can somebody please explain to me what is happening? It's just that at that age, you have these hormonal things going on, but not a lot of details. And so I embarked on my own journey because that was so traumatic for me, right? Because I even had to do these different biopsies. And I mean,
Right.
my kids were a little bit younger. And then, I'm going through this whole traumatic experience for like 10 years. And all I kept thinking, if I can develop breast cancer at any time and leave my small children. I mean, it was just so traumatic for me to have been experiencing that with no answers. And so I am not good at taking no. I've never been good when they say there's nothing you can do, because they did tell me
Right.
that it's part of being a woman. And I, now I hear women say that their
Hmm.
doctors actually tell them that. And I'm like, this was 10, 15 years ago. I was told that. Is that still being told? And yes, it's still being told, because most doctors get 2 or 3 classes when it comes to menopause or nutrition in med school. This is
Mm.
not something that they deal with. You have to find a specialist. So anyway, I embarked on my own journey and found out that I was going through perimenopause. This is what happens during perimenopause. Your hormones change. These are the symptoms that you experience, and these are some of the things you can do. And I followed a lot of the advice from mostly holistic, naturopathic doctors and specialists, and created a whole plan for myself in terms of how to kind of start healing my body. It took me a while, but I did. And I didn't have to do medications in order to do that. And so once I did that, I said, but wait a minute. If I went through that experience, there's gotta be a ton of other women out there who are experiencing that. And then when I did research on the menopause industry and found out how many women are actually suffering, and it's a multi-million-dollar industry with not really the right educations, but there's a lot of people that are profiting off this big pharma and all of those. We won't get into that. But there was so much lack of education around menopause.
Yes.
The average woman enters perimenopause with no clue what's about
Mm.
to happen until it hits. And even when it happens, a lot of times they don't understand it. So one of my mission has been to really educate, so you can make informed decisions about whether you're going to do this in a holistic, natural way, or whether you're going to get medications, hormone replacement, whatever. It's your choice, right? But I want people to know that they don't have to suffer. They don't have to get up and live in pain every single day. There is a better way. And I've said a lot, so I'm gonna take a breath and let you ask any questions. See, this is what happened. I
Oh,
get really excited.
that's awesome. I love your passion because you're right. It's so many, we don't have a lot of resources to talk about menopause. We don't have that avenue, right? And so it's like, how do we get the answers we need? We have so many questions, like what's the difference between my first question, what's the difference between um as far as symptoms is concerned between perimenopause and actual menopause? When it comes to symptoms, what's the difference?
Yeah. So let me start by saying what's the difference between perimenopause and menopause. So perimenopause, it's where your body is gearing up for menopause. Menopause really technically means the last period. You go without your period for 12 consecutive months. After that, you have no more periods, reproductive years are done, no more babies, menopause, that's it. You move into postmenopause. Perimenopause can go on for 10, 15 years. So it usually starts around mid 35, and it can go up to 50, 51. It varies, right? Some women have late menopause. In terms of the symptoms, they're very similar, right? During the perimenopausal years, some women have very high estrogen. Like that was what I had during my perimenopause, which is one of the root causes of my fibrocystic breast tissues. I
Mm.
was estrogen dominant, right? Estrogen and progesterone are two key hormones in a woman's body. They're like yin and yang. They're supposed to be balanced. If one is higher than the other, you're going to feel some symptoms. One is low. So my estrogen was way higher than my progesterone. I needed to get it in balance, and that's what creates the symptoms. Symptoms are, so in perimenopause, you have all these different hormonal changes happening. And the symptoms are very similar to menopause. One of the difference with being in menopause is that your estrogen tends to be lower. So in perimenopause, it goes up and then it declines. And so once you get to menopause, you may hear a lot of women complain about vaginal dryness, joint pains, brittle bones. That's why at that age, it becomes so important to make sure you're getting the right nutrients or whatever you need to keep your joints healthy, because the estrogen is less. Estrogen as for a woman is what keeps us moist and supple, the bones, the joints, and other places, our skin, right? So at that point, you're having a decline in the estrogen. And also, hot flashes tend to decline when you get into menopause, once you are in menopause,
Oh,
right? So it's not forever. I mean, very rare you'll see women getting hot flashes into their 60s, 70s. It peaks in perimenopause and kind of goes up once you hit menopause, and then it just kind of comes down. But the symptoms can be the same, they just have a um, different scale, right, on the spectrum. So, for example, research states that there are about 34 well-known documented menopausal symptoms, perimenopause and menopause. Other studies say there are hundreds, right? But I'm just going to stick with the science because I love the science, because I'm not a doctor. So I like to speak
right.
the science based on what I have read and what I understand. So from those 34 symptoms, a lot of them are the same in perimenopause as they are in menopause, but different degrees.
Okay.
Does that
So
make sense?
that makes a lot of sense. You know what's interesting that you said when you're in menopause, how hot flashes tend to go down. They don't
Yes.
appear as much, right? So you really could be in perimenopause for a while
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
and
I
not even
have
and thinking you in menopause.
Yes, yes. And so, because sometimes women don't really know the difference, right?
Right.
But hot flashes is the one of the probably the most notorious symptoms. But honey, there are so much more. When I learned about heart palpitations, that people actually check
Hmm.
themselves into the emergency room, think they're having a heart attack when they're having heart palpitations, which is one of the menopause symptoms as well. So there
Now,
are
how okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, no, no. I'm just saying
How
you would
can
never think
you would never think what?
that the heart palpitation is related to menopause.
No, you wouldn't really, not at all. Not
Yeah.
at all. So how would a woman know her weight gain is coming from menopause? Because oftentimes, weight gain come from many things, but
Yeah.
how will you know if it's coming from menopause?
Yeah. So make all things being equal during that menopausal perimenopause period. I talked a little bit about the hormonal shifts.
Mhm.
Now, in a woman, estrogen is king, queen, whatever you want to call it. Due to that shift in hormones, our weight tends to shift. And one of the areas that it shifts the most is around the midsection.
Hmm.
The midsection has more fat tissues than any other parts of the body. So when you gain weight, everything tends to kind of gravitates in that area, right? So, the belly fat, hormonal belly fat or menobelly, right? And that's a result of the hormonal changes. So if you're not really actively understanding what's happening and taking steps to prevent that, it's just going to happen. And then you're going to wake up one day and go, what is this? Right.
Right.
So that is mostly due to, unless you were a little bit some women are have a little bit of weight before menopause, but if you notice during menopause is starting to come, it's definitely that hormonal shift. But it's not all women get it, right? Maybe because I knew a little different, so I took different steps. And that is why I just created this new freebie called 5 Secrets to Lose Menopause Belly Naturally, or belly fat, whatever I call it.
Okay.
Because I noticed that it was one of the big complaints I hear from the women I work with. Like, it's a big struggle, right? And so I developed that freebie just to give away, because it's a
Awesome.
big thing, right. So yeah. Did
So let
that
me ask
answer
you,
your question?
yes, it did. Yes, it did actually. What was I gonna ask? I have so many questions because this is a subject that's just been so deep in my heart. It's like I can't control my thoughts right now because I'm like, oh, this is exciting. I'm excited on one hand and
You gotta bring your
very
own
elated,
questions.
very elated about this conversation. So, what natural what are the natural things you can do to help with menopause? Because a lot of times everybody want to give you medicine.
Yes, yes. And let me just say, and if that's a path that a woman chooses, that's completely fine, because there are different degrees of symptoms.
Mm,
So because I am a holistic coach, I am not a doctor. So I'll talk to women and see what works best for them, do my assessment. But from a natural perspective, I always say make that be your first line of defense. And I'll get into some of that. Make it be
okay.
your first line of defense. And then if that doesn't work, then you see your doctor, and then, you and your doctor can decide what other options are right for you.
Okay.
But from a natural perspective, I'm an advocate for lifestyle changes, right? And that's very broad. What you eat is the foundation of your health.
Yes.
Hormones do not like processed foods. Your hormones do not like a lot of sugar. Your hormones do not like a lot of the things that we've been taught that we should not be eating. Your
Okay.
hormones love whole foods. So I'm an advocate of whole foods, good lean protein, whether that be animal protein or plant protein, wholesome vegetables, like real food, not the sad diet, the standard American diet, but
Right.
real wholesome food. So that's my foundation. That's at the bottom of my pyramid. When I
Okay.
say this is where we're going to start, right? Let's just clean the slate. Usually I go through a detox with my clients when I'm working one-on-one. Let's just clean the slate, also the pantry, and let's just start fresh, right? So we
Oh,
start
okay.
building from there. So I like to start with the nutrition. Diet nutrition is a big part of it. Supplementation is also important.
Mhm.
Ties right into nutrition, because some people say, well, I eat well, I don't need to take supplements. Well, you may eat well, I eat well too, but here's the thing: our soil's depleted. We don't get the
Yes.
nutrients that we used to get 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago in our food anymore, right? So even if you're eating well and organic and wholesome, we are still being depleted. If you live somewhere where it's colder, the weather is not always nice for you to go out, chances are you're lacking in vitamin D.
Hmm.
Right? I've had my journey with vitamin D deficiency, even though I wasn't consistent, but I had to, because I live in New York. I don't go stand out in the sun in the
Right.
winter. I
Right.
don't do that, right? So for example, just as an example of a supplementation that is critical for women is a vitamin D,
Okay.
right? And some others. I mean, I don't want to get into all of that, but supplementation, I always recommend a few standard ones. And then I say, make sure you talk to your doctor that if you're taking other meds, there are no interactions and you're taking the right dosage. Because again, I'm very careful about what I recommend, because it might be against my certification and limits what I can
Oh,
tell a
yeah, I know what you
client,
mean.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have boundaries that I have to work within. So supplementation. The other thing is movement. right? God made us. We were created not to sit for 10 hours a day. Our
Right.
bodies were made to move. And so that's why I'm sure you've heard where they say the sitting is the new smoking, right? So
Mm,
we are not having adequate movement in our daily lives in our Western culture. So we have to move our bodies because we got to have our hormones want that movement. We want
yes.
balance. We want homeostasis in our bodies. And so that's part of it. And so when I talk about movement, one of the critical movements for women is strength training. Over
Yes.
40, strength training, the muscles. We're getting older, we're losing muscle mass, we're losing bone density, right? So we have to be able to build that back. We're fighting against it's coming, but we have to do something in order to kind of mitigate some of the risk of what's coming. And so strength training is number one when it comes to women and movement. And then some like maybe yoga, Pilates, and of course some cardio workout, like whether it's
Cardio. Yeah.
walking or whatever it is, that sort of thing. So movement. So we talked about diet and nutrition, supplementation, movement, and also our spirituality, our mindset, whatever it means to you, whether it's a prayer, whether it's meditation, whatever it means to you, in that you're having there's time being set aside for you to focus on your mind, to have some kind of spiritual practice that you integrate. Your relationship with others, very important as well, as
Yes.
part of your complete balance. You can't be eating well and doing everything else well and you have very tumultuous relationships with everyone around you, and sometimes you gotta look at yourself as well.
Right.
um and then natural therapies, like I'm an essential oils girl, and I learned about essential oils more than 15 years ago when a friend of mine
Hmm.
introduced them to me for my children. Because I grew up in the islands, always, my grew up with my grandparents, and our first line of defense when you were sick, it was some kind of herbal remedy. That's how I
Okay.
grew up, right? And then worst case scenario, you go to the doctor, you break an arm, you go to the doctor. But
Right.
that was kind of
But some
my.
things can use herbs can be very useful, right?
Yes, there's I like to say, my grandmother always said there's a bush for this and a bush for that and a bush for that, right? So when I learned about essential oils years later, they're plant medicine. They're
Hmm.
plant therapy. And so I started to use them with my kids because when you have little kids, they're always getting sick, flu, colds. And so that thing worked where I didn't have to constantly taking them to the doctor. So all of that really worked. And so when I got older, and I found out that it was also helping my emotional health during menopause. My lavender, my orange, my bliss, like all of that stuff became a part of my health. My fibrocystic breast tissues essential oils played a key role in that as well. And so I always try to recommend, if people are open to that, to adopt an essential oils protocol, because they're very powerful when it comes to particular emotional issues that people have to deal with.
So when you use essential oils as as one of your methods, is it something they ingest or is it something they put on their
No,
body? Or
so
is it
essential
something they
oils,
burn?
yeah, so essential oils, the quality matters, right? High quality essential oils. I you can For some essential oils, very few, very high quality, you can ingest some. Um, the best way, I always say, because some people may have allergic reactions, you can diffuse them or you can apply them to your skin. Applying them to your skin, you need instructions. You have to use a carrier oil, like a jojoba oil or fractionated coconut oil, in order, because sometimes people are sensitive to them because they go in through your skin and they hit your brain cells. They're like
Hmm.
medicine, really, if you get the good quality ones, not the ones they sell in the retail
Right.
stores for 5 for $10. All the
Oh,
stores
okay.
will remain
This is a
nameless.
good high quality type, really, that you get a certain
Yes.
brand.
Yes, yes.
Okay.
And so I'll just give you a little bit of example of how I use them. So when I used them, when it was a part of my therapy for my breast tissues, I would dilute them with my fractionated oil and massage them into my breasts. Like you
Mhm.
massage them. Same thing if you have a fever, you can massage them on the bottom of your feet, like oil of oregano, tea tree oil, rosemary oil. Those things are good for fevers and colds.
Mm.
You rub them on your back and your chest and that sort of stuff. Diffusing is a really nice way to, in different scents, whether you want it in your home, how you want to feel. Like orange is very nice, like in the day, because in the mornings it's very energizing. It uplifts your
Okay.
mood. And so you can use it a variety of ways, but it's a whole other conversation.
I know, right? I got to get you back on for the essential oil.
Whole
No,
other
this is
class.
what is a good, like, what do you do for essential, as far as essential oils? What will be a good combination for menopause?
So any of the citrus oils, because they impact your mood. So lemon, or depending on who makes the essential oils, I'm associated with doTERRA, so they have one called the Orange Bliss,
Mm.
Citrus Bliss, I'm sorry, and then there's lemon. So any citrus oils are great for mood. Lavender is also very nice. And I think most people are familiar with lavender
Yes.
anyway. Yeah, but those are the common ones that people like. Peppermint is very uplifting also, for in the mornings. Yeah. And then they
Okay,
have
so
some nighttime ones that I really like for sleep. There's also oils for sleep. My favorite
okay.
is Serenity.
Okay.
Um, yeah.
Yeah, because a lot of times menopause affect how you sleep.
Oh, yes. That's a big, big
That's
part
a
of it.
big one. That's a big one.
Yes. That's a big one. A big
Oh
one.
yeah. Because you like constantly like putting covers on, taking them off, putting them on, taking them off, and it just interrupts your whole sleep. What
Exactly.
advice would you give for that?
For the hot flashes, it sounds like.
Just
Is
what
that
you go through when it comes to sleep, your
to
restlessness.
sleep? Yeah. So and I've done quite a bit of my blog articles where I tackle that subject so many times. Um, but a few things. So first of all, you have to have your room at a certain temperature, right? I mean, it might be because I
Yes.
have a friend, quick story. They have a bed that I guess they have these beds now, where you can adjust the sides, like I'm on one side,
Yes.
you're yeah. So she has a cool side and he has a normal side. She has a fan on her side of the bed, he doesn't have a fan on his side of the bed. So sometimes you have to kind of do things because again, that's your body telling you that the hormones are out of balance, right? That's one of the effect. Hot flashes is a result of the hormones being out of balance, right? So if that's what you're experiencing and you're trying to fix that, so I'd say the first thing is just make sure you have nice breathable sheets, you're sleeping in breathable clothing.
Mm.
um Diffusing essential oils maybe an hour in your room before you go into bed, ones that are induce sleep. That's nice because once you get in there, it feels good. Maybe even diluting some essential oils on your pulse points. Honestly, for me, that's what works the best. Just putting it
Okay.
in your pulse points because it should, you have pulse points all over your body. So I
Right.
like to put it here and on the neck area. We have a lot of lymph nodes in our neck area. So the neck area is a really sensitive place that it can get absorbed into the bloodstream like right away. um have a nighttime protocol, whether it's a hot bath before bed, a nice soak, with Epsom salt or some essential oils again in your bath, and have a consistent bedtime, because a lot of women, a lot of us, I'm guilty of that sometimes, so we don't have a rhythm when it comes to our sleep time. And people think they can make sleep up. There's no such thing. You miss it, it's gone. When you
Oh
say think you're
yeah.
making it up, that's because you're
You're
still
really not.
tired. You're not making it up. It's gone. So having that consistent rhythm for your bedtime, because the other thing is, our circadian rhythm kicks in at a certain hour. And if we miss that time, they say it's 12 o'clock. If you miss that time, then you don't have a chance to have that circadian rhythm.
Mm.
So establishing that consistent bedtime, go to bed at the same time, wake up at the same time. Even if you're not sleeping, like I try to make my way in my bed at 11. I'm supposed to be in there at 10:30, but don't always
Girl, I'm
happen.
in bed way earlier than
Good for you. Good for you.
I'm
Good for
like a
you.
kid. 8
Good for
o'clock, 8:30.
Oh my God. Oh man, I wish I could. I wish I could. I
I
just
have
have
to.
so much going on.
No,
But
usually 8:30, 9 o'clock. Seriously. I'm in
that
bed.
that's awesome. That is awesome. Yeah. So that also helps. So if people can just women can take some of those steps, you'll notice. And this thing here
That's
does not.
damaging.
Yes, the lights that come, the
Yes.
EMF that this thing generates before bed, because they say that you need to put this away at least an hour before bed, before you go to bed. And it shouldn't be close to your bed either because of all the radiation that it emits. So you
Mm.
put it a little farther away from where you're actually sleeping, and shut it down like an hour before bed so that your body and your mind can calm down.
Yes. That's one of the things that I had to and still fight with adjusting is, you know, turning on the TV. Because I tell myself, you need sound to go to sleep. Something that's gonna like turn my brain off, right?
Yeah.
And so I sometimes use devices to do that. And I say, this is horrible because my sleep is horrible when I do that.
Yeah. No, and I took my TV out of our bedroom. So I
Mm.
don't have a television in my bedroom
Yeah.
anymore.
My husband always say the bedroom is for sleep. When I go in the
That's right.
bedroom, I think sleep.
Yes. I don't work in my bedroom. I do nothing else in my bedroom but
Right.
read and sleep.
Right. That's a good one. Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh God, I love this subject. Like, so what if you had one piece of advice for women in menopause, what would it be?
Lifestyle. We all have That's accessible to all of us. It's very simple, right? We cannot do the things as 40 plus and beyond that we did when we were 29 or 20. We just can't. Our bodies aren't that forgiving anymore.
Mm,
We have to be more mindful of how we take care of this body. As Jim Rohn says, it's the only place we live.
right.
Right? So, my one piece of advice would be just be mindful of the life that you're living, your lifestyle. Be mindful of what you're putting in your body. Invest in your health, whatever that is, whether it's a coach or whether it's really making sure you're putting quality, nutritious food. Move your body. Make sure your supplementation is adequate, and prioritize your sleep.
Yes. Thank you. That is some great advice because lifestyle is so important. That's some great advice, especially like you said, when our hot flashes is one of the signs that say your hormones are off, right? And so, what advice would you give them when they figure out my hormones are off? I
Yeah.
know to get them back on, but what
Yeah.
are what steps should they take?
Start with the lifestyle changes. You have to start there, because if okay, my hormones are out of whack because I'm having all these hot flashes, your first defense shouldn't be to go to try to get meds. It might be eventually, but I'm coming right back to that lifestyle.
Okay.
I'm starting with nutrition. So if that is happening to you, your hormones are definitely off. Start with your nutrition. If
So be
you've done
careful with the
all you can,
sugars,
the sugars, the processed foods. Look,
processed
we
food.
Yes, at our age, we don't need to be eating all that sugars. We don't need to be eating all that processed foods. All of that stuff need to be kept like for special
Yes,
occasions or limited, right? So that's my first bit of advice. If say, what should I do? Yeah,
great advice. Deon, this has been such a pleasure to have you on the show and to talk about menopause. And because we all experiencing as women, we all have, I know I experience hot flashes, and that lets me know that, and I don't, I eliminated processed food and try to figure out when I eat how my body reacting to it, things of that
yeah,
nature. Um,
yeah,
but I know I have to be mindful of my sleep patterns. I have to make sure
yeah,
I wise up on that part. But
yeah. And make sure you're
but
moving. Make sure you're
oh
moving
yeah,
because
I
they
definitely go
all
to the
work
gym.
together. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm definitely at the gym. That's why I go to
Yes.
bed early. So I can get to the gym in the morning.
To the
But
gym.
yeah, lifestyle is important. And
Mhm.
like I said, I am so grateful that you came on. And it's a lot more we can cover with menopause, I'm sure, with especially with the essential oils and things of that nature. But can you tell the audience how can they reach you?
Sure. So I can be reached at my website is balancebeyond40.com. My email is Dion at balancebeyond40.com. My Instagram handle is balancebeyond40. My Facebook handle is balancebeyond40. Everything is balancebeyond40. And if I can offer, I don't know if you want to put this in your show notes or whatever, that
Oh
free
yeah,
gift that I
absolutely.
mentioned, the 5 secrets to shedding stubborn belly fat for women
Yes.
over 40 naturally. I would be happy to give that resource out.
Yes, please do. Absolutely, please
Yeah,
do. And I just want to say thank you so much for coming on the show to talk about this. It's always
yeah,
good to get information that's important to our health, especially as women, because we do
yeah,
so much. We're nurturers and we take care of so much and so many people that we sometimes forget about ourselves.
yeah,
And so I just wanted to say thank you so much for coming on. And I just want to say to the audience, thank you so much for listening. If you feel that this episode was helpful, please do share and subscribe to the channel because you never know what you might be missing out on. Like she has a free resource that if you didn't subscribe to the channel, I promise you, you wouldn't know about it. And sometimes
yeah,
a lot of times they offer free information and free resources. So I just, this is what the show is for. It's for you as the audience. So do share and subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much for listening. We are signing off.
It's your time to shine, your journey to chart. Coach Rice wisdom will heal every heart. So join us now, let's make life suffice. Welcome to Mondays with Coach Rice.